I have done my bachelor's in electrical engineering in 2009. I worked in Pakistan for 6 years, but when I came here, I had to start from scratch. So I had to go through a series of exams and, the certifications in order to practice my engineering here. So for an engineer, if you come here, you have to get the equivalent certificate first from the university to the Canadian institutions. Mm-hmm. And once you get that certification, then you'll get an EIT, which is Engineer in Training, from a professional association of the province where you're living. Mm-hmm. So like, for example, in Nova Scotia, it's Engineers Nova Scotia, and in Alberta, it's APEGA. So these are the organizations who give you EIT, and after completing 3 years working under that EIT certification, then you'll be eligible for a PEng exam, which is professional engineering exam. Mm-hmm. So once you complete that, then you'll be a certified professional engineer in Canada. So now you see how long that process is. So if anyone who's coming from outside Canada has a non-Canadian degree, he'll face lots of troubles here.
I'm glad you brought that point up, because that's also been, a lot of the guys that you encounter in the field, these people, some of them have, multiple degrees, but can't find a job in their field.
That's right.
But are forced to, look elsewhere for other opportunities. I guess the question I have for you is, prior, you mentioned that you got qualified for a program that brought you to Halifax, right? Are you guys, what kind of a pitch are you all given? Are you told what it is you're getting into? Are you aware prior to leaving Pakistan that, look, you're leaving Pakistan, but when you get to Canada, you're going to need to do an extensive upgrade before you can be eligible to work within?
Yeah, I knew about that.
They tells you these things.
I knew about that, but the thing is that we have our professional engineering association back home as well, mm-hmm. like the PEC, which is Pakistan Engineering Council. Mm-hmm. So what I think is there should be an international body that should recognize all the degrees, all the experiences globally, and then they should have a joint engineering association who manages all these, equivalencies. Like, for example, if somebody coming from your country, like South Africa or Saudi Arabia or Dubai or Pakistan, India, Malaysia, Thailand, wherever. Mm-hmm. So their professional organizations should have a matching with the American, Canadian or Australian, all the degrees. So in this way, all the engineers, we study all of the engineers, we study same thing.
Right.
We study same syllabus. We study exactly same courses, and then we practice the same thing. For example, I'm electrical engineer. I'll give you example of transformer, which is used to step up or step down the voltage. Mm-hmm. So the basic working principle of a transformer is same, even if you're in Pakistan, Canada, US, UK, wherever. The basic concept, basic working principle of a motor, of an electrical motor, whether it's alternating current or direct current, it's the same. Transformer, motors, electrical generators, they're all same. We study same thing. Then what's the reason that when we go to other countries, we face lots of troubles? So in my opinion, Canadian government, US government, and other governments should organize a body by which they can, synchronize simultaneously all of these engineering programs, so that when one engineer, one professional that has a couple of years experience goes to another country, so he won't find any trouble.
And I also feel like, I'm glad you brought that point up. I also feel like even, with this new body, this organization that will be in charge of something like that, it'll probably be helpful too if they can examine, you give the exam when they're at home. Right. So then who qualifies, so that that once they're here, they're ready to work. Right. They're not here to go back to school, because when you come here and you're at a certain age, you don't have time to really go back to school. What you really need is to start planning your future and not, getting into more debts, which is what a lot of the time that will require. So here's a question to you. Why do you think that body, that engineer body or that council body isn't in place?
You mean when I came to Nova Scotia?
No, not when you came to Nova Scotia. It's just, now you just said that it'll be good for Canada America and any other countries to have
that body.
a council body in charge that can make sure that those coming in, especially those qualified, we'll call them able bodies, coming into Canada or wherever else they go around the world, they're work ready.
Right, yeah.
Right? Why do you think that body, that council body, is not in place yet?
Okay, there are a couple of reasons. I mean, most of the organization bodies, they have all the different standards, like the minor standards. Like, for example, if we talk about the working standard of the voltage in Canada, which is 110. Mm-hmm. We use electricity at 110 volt. Back home, back in Pakistan, we use 220 voltage. So there are minor differences. But the people who are working in Canada or in the US, they think that there might be some troubles if the fresh engineer is coming in. So their minor differences can make trouble. So these new engineers can't adjust in our environment. So they have to go through a long process in order to get that certification done once they get in the field.
So what happens when a Canadian or an American person leaves here and go to Pakistan or go to Nigeria or wherever else they go? Are they also being scrutinized to undergo the schooling process?
They just have to submit their professional engineering certificate and they are good to go.
And they're good to go and they're working already.
Exactly. Yeah,
even though we're working with 110.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's the worst part. So they just have to submit the certification in Pakistan Engineering Council and they're good to go.
Okay, so when you look at the government body and how they function in Pakistan, what is their position on, is there something that they've sort of talked about, that their student coming from Pakistan and going elsewhere in the world should also have equal opportunity as well? Does that ever come up within your government?
There is one program, the joint venture, which was started in 2018. But I haven't heard after that. But they were planning something to initiate a program, the joint venture program. But that was with the UK, Canada and Australia. I'm not sure about USA. So they were planning about that. So if that happens, then that will create lots of opportunities for Pakistanis to come in Canada, UK and Australia.
And be able to work right away.
Sure, yeah. Because then their body will be joined, like Pakistan Engineering Council will be joined, it will be a joint venture, like, so it will be connected with the UK, Australia and Canada. So they can access their engineers' information right away from their countries.
That would be good.
Yeah,
that would be good. I'm actually glad we talked about that. So what made you go into engineering? Is it something you always wanted to do? Did you have other choices?
My father is electrical engineer, so
got it.
And then he was a scientist as well, because he has proposed a new innovative way of creating electricity from the hot sand. And he has a wonderful project back in 90s. And he awarded with the 3 gold medals as well. And that project was called STAC, Sand Thermal Energy Conversion. The process by which we use the heat of sand and by which we condense ammonia gas that goes in certain sections through pipes. And then there is a network of pipes underneath the water, like 40-50 feet underneath the water. So if we paint the desert, like the upper portion of the pipes, desert with the black color, so as you know, that black color absorbs heat. So there is a temperature difference between the upper part of the sand, which is the blackened sand, mixed with the coal, and there is a series of pipes underneath, like 50-40 feet underneath. So if there is a temperature difference, on the upper part, it's like 50 degrees Celsius, and on the bottom, it's like 20 degrees. So there is a difference of 30 degrees Celsius. So if there is a difference of 30 degrees Celsius, so there is a tendency in ammonia, that's a natural phenomenon, that the ammonia gas rapidly flows in that circuit.
Right.
So if we place a small turbine in that section, so that turbine starts to rotate. And that energy can be used, that turbine rotates the alternator, the prime mover. So it will act as a prime mover. So I'm using a little bit of technical terms.
And that's okay.
All right, so sorry about that. So once the turbine starts to run, it creates the motion in the alternator. And once the alternator turns, it creates the electricity. So it was the best project of year 1991. And I was 4 years old at that time. And I loved it. And from that day, I have decided that I would be a scientist like my father, and I'll be electrical engineer. I'll study in the same university. So I've taken admission in Mehran University, and I became electrical engineer.
That's actually pretty incredible.
It is.
So you have the best of your family, really. Your grandfather, whom you get the whole catering to animals from, and I care. And your father, whom you get the electrical engineering from. Why do you think that they just never got along in terms of their two separate career choices?
Maybe my dad was too much focused in the studies. He couldn't think about the horses and the guns and the hunting, maybe.
Right.
Because in my case, I have done pretty much everything. I mean, I have done horse riding, I have done hunting, shooting. I like playing cricket, which is nobody knows about the cricket.
Oh,